Sustainability. It's a word that has been commonly used in the 21st century. According to the UNEP, the United Nations Environmental Programme, it is simply how we can ensure that future generations have enough resources to have an equal life or probably a better life. While some cling to this as the only hope for the future, some think that this concept has been exaggerated. But sustainability goes beyond just giving nature some space to breathe. Let me tell you why. In 2015, all United Nations member states adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, popularly known as Sustainable Development Goals 2030. This agenda was a plan of action for people, planet, and prosperity. By outlining 17 sustainable development goals and 169 targets to which all countries and stakeholders were to collaborate to implement this plan. Well, the goal here had critical importance for humanity and the planet in terms of people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. But as 2030 is approaching, the question is, 10 years from now, will we be able to achieve our goals with the way we are going with sustainability now? Well, there is a community of people who love the earth, nature, and people at heart. They have created a community where they are committed to making positive impact. Positive is a movement of changemaker businesses empowering a regenerative economy. And on today's episode, we have the CEO of Positive, Niels de Fraguier. We dig deep into his passion for working with the youth and empowering the youth through a regenerative action. Let's get into it. Good day, Niels. Thank you for making time for the Green Living Chats. It's good you're here. It's good to see you finally.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you for having me. Really happy to take part in this episode.
Oh yeah, I forgot. How do you pronounce your surname?
My surname? You really want to pronounce it? Or would you say it?
Oh my God, you don't want me to try this.
I often ask people to give it a try.
It's Niels de Fraguier.
Yeah. So Niels de Fraguier.
What?
You're pretty good, man. Niels
really?
de Fraguier. Yeah, Niels de Fraguier.
Okay, that's good. Okay, it's already recording, so I'm gonna repeat that over and over. Yeah, you're a really busy man and it's really difficult to get you.
Could be worse, but always good to dedicate some time to the discussion about sustainability, regeneration, and what our world needs to become and what it could become if everyone is going behind a similar vision.
Yeah, but how are things going? Are you currently in France? How are things going there?
So I'm currently based in Spain, so I'm holding a French citizenship, but I'm used to travel quite often to work on different projects. And I relocated in Spain a few months ago when COVID hit Europe. I wanted to be in a place where I was surrounded by nature, where I could be in a place where I could feel, happiness and peace as well. So I'm in Granada, south of Spain, really close to Morocco, actually. But yeah, really lovely city with a lot of Arabic influences and a lot of sun and a lot of possibilities to go outdoor and some sport and physical activity, which is super important.
Yeah. Wow. How is it in Spain right now? Actually, I'm waiting to return to Spain. I was in Seville last year and it's really amazing there.
Yeah, so the situation is getting a bit better now. So we had kind of a strict lockdown, so all the cities were kind of closed. Bars, restaurants, and non-essential businesses were closed as well. and they're reopening it day by day now. So it's getting a bit better, and I guess by mid-December everything is gonna be reopened. But we still have a curfew at night, and we have strict measures. But I think the number of cases is decreasing. But it's been quite scary for the past weeks, with a lot of death and a lot of victims from COVID, unfortunately.
We are hoping for the best, and we hope to get back to work soon.
Definitely. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So Niels, let's get into our discussion. You have been in this industry of sustainability, and I know that you have worked a lot with the youth. You have a very big passion for, sustainability and, improving the world. I would like you to just give us an overview of what experience have you gathered so far, and with your experience, what thoughts do you have on human action and what we're doing to the earth right now?
So I had the opportunity to study in several countries. I was pretty lucky to do so. So I've been studying in Hungary as an Erasmus student, getting some funding from the European Union, but also getting the access to new cultures, new experiences. I then studied in Sweden, Master about Sustainable Development and Leadership. And in the meantime, and after graduating, I was working with several projects, working with organizations such as the United Nations. I worked a lot on migration and the role of youth to find solutions and to empower migrants and refugees when they were facing trauma, for instance. I've been also looking at the role of sports for the SDGs, so working as an international Olympic Committee young leader, working along with 53 other changemakers from around the world, implementing projects, using sport for the Agenda 2030, and really to find a way to engage and empower people. So it can be young people, but it can also be minorities. It could also be women, and really help them to lift each other up and to grow together. So yeah, I'm really passionate about what sustainability means, what we can do in our world to make the future better. Basically, how do we make sure that the conversation is going further, and that more than talking, we walk the talk, and that we implement change. Something that has been really important for me in the different experiences I had, like working with policymakers. I work a lot with politicians in the Council of Europe, for instance, as a youth delegate, shaping youth policies in regards to the Agenda 2030 as well. So I would say that my kind of early career span across different continents and different sectors. So looking at policies with policymakers, shaping the policies that could allow youth and minorities to be empowered. This is something really important. So how do we make sure that young people are part of the debate, that they do not only get access to opportunities, but that they can also like proactively take action, and that's something that is really important. Then looking at field projects. So how do we concretely make change happening in the fields? So looking at grassroots projects, how do we give the tools to young people to make their dream a reality, and to implement this vision they have? And then looking at advocacy as well, because all these are different sectors, and if you cannot share and spread the message and the vision you have, it's quite difficult to make progress. So I've been looking at that, and I would say that my key takeaway and what I would remember is that for me, young people and individuals in general need three things that are essential for them. First is skills, so the knowledge, making sure that people get access to the knowledge, and not on a top-down perspective. So it means that the knowledge needs to be inclusive and accessible, that everyone can get it. So first is really this skills and this knowledge. Second one is the opportunity. You're not gonna give any chance to any person if they don't have opportunities. So you need to open up. You need to allow people to apply. You need to allow people to reach out to you. You need to allow people to get the chance, basically, to be the best they can, and to make this impact they want to have. And third one is trust. And I think this is the most important actually, is how do we make sure that we trust people we are working with? How do we make sure that we trust people we want to support, and this trust needs to be built. So, sometimes trust is complex because young people are sometimes facing hardship. So they are, confronting policymakers, leaders, politicians. But still, we need to recreate an ecosystem where these three elements are, working together, and where everyone can play a role to make it happen.
I have seen your background and all the things that you're talking about. You have really worked with different groups of youth organizations. I mean, from those related to the UN in Madagascar, in Ethiopia. I even realized you did a master thesis. I read your thesis recently on, I think, something to empower the youth in
Youth
Ethiopia.
empowerment
And
in rural areas in Ethiopia,
yeah,
and looking at education, looking at
yep.
access to education. So I had the chance to go to Ethiopia for a month during my master thesis. It was personal choice. I wanted to look at the specific context, and yeah, I had the chance to lead some interviews with the government, with the Ministry of Youth, with the UN agencies, UNDP, UNESCO, for instance, and some international NGOs such as Save the Children. And then I also did some field studies, which is super important. So talking to local NGOs in Addis Ababa, but also in different regions. So I went to the countryside. I spent actually a week just looking at TVETs, like training for young people that were unemployed,
Yeah.
for needs, not in employment, education, or training, and looking at how we can empower these people to get access to skills and to opportunities and to trust. Everything was part of it. And then looking at, how we can help them in a local area to make some profits to sustain themselves, sustain their livelihoods and their households, and also looking at how we can help them to grow as an individual, because it goes beyond the skills they have. It's also about the person you are, and it's about self-awareness, self-understanding, self-respect, and how do you empower these people through skills is something really
hmm
really important.
Before we get into positive, your new company, what is this thing about the youth that makes you so keen about them? I haven't seen anyone of this generation doing it like you do. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean it's been a journey for me. It started a couple of years ago. I'm 24 at the moment, but yeah, it started certainly 5, 6, 7 years ago. Around my 18, like I was certainly facing a lot of hardship to get into opportunities. I've seen how difficult it was to be a young person, to be trusted, to be listened, to be encouraged, to be empowered. And I think like somehow, what I'm doing now is giving back to a generation that I believe in. And if I believe in this generation is because I knew that at that time when I needed support, I didn't receive it. And I knew that if I
Yeah.
was getting this support, I would certainly have made a lot of mistakes, but also accomplished a lot of things. And, it took me time to do it, and it's going to take time for doing things, but we need to improve and we need to give opportunities. So my journey has been about realizing that I wasn't supported enough, and when I say supported, it's by the society. It can be by governments, it can be by local associations, it can be by policymakers, it can be by businesses. When you apply for a job, concrete example, right? When you apply for a job, and you don't even get an answer, you don't even get a feedback, you don't even get a review on your application. How can you make sure that these young people are growing healthily if you don't support them? And this is what I faced, and what I've seen is that there are solutions, there are ways to do better. I believe in a better world. I believe in better situations and better solutions. So what I'm trying to do is basically giving back to these young people. And every time a young person is reaching out to me, I will always find the time to talk. I was part of this IOC Young Leader program, for instance, and I know that recently a lot of young people from around the world have reached out to me and said, Niels, can we have a 30 minutes talk, chat, for me to ask questions? And I'm always like, yes, because I know how difficult it is to reach out to people and to get an answer.
hmm
And I think this is our duty as young people to support each other. And
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna get old one day, but I will always have this illumination when I think about young people and the power they have into their hands, and how do we make sure that they convert this power into something that is tangible, that is practical, and that helps them and their community to thrive.
It's good. It's good. I'm really proud of what you're doing, and it just encourages me to do more. Before Positive, I know you were with an organization recently, Sustainability and Advocacy by Youth, called SAY. So, would you like to tell us the transition from that to Positive? What happened, and what were you thinking? What started going into your mind, and what brought this transition?
Yeah, so let me go back to my studies. For me, like since I've done like this Erasmus experience, I've always worked with the EU Commission and with several organizations. So my life was basically about discovering new cultures, meeting new people, studying, and working. Um, the reason why I started working early is that for sure I needed an income, but more than that, I needed a purpose. I needed to have a concrete, action plan about what I could achieve, what I could do, and learning, because I found that studying was good, but it was too theoretical for me, and I wasn't, fitting with the educational model. I was like, I need something else. I need something complementary. And if I wasn't working and if I wasn't traveling and learning about new cultures, it would have been difficult for me to study because
Yeah,
I wasn't really finding purpose. So I'd done that, and then when I graduated, I think it was in August 2018, when I graduated from my master on sustainable development and leadership in Sweden, I had several options, either applying for jobs, either creating something on my own. And I said like, okay, you have the opportunity to do both, go for it. So I was applying for
yeah,
jobs, targeting high positions, to be working in embassies, to be working with the UN, and it didn't really work out. I was basically too young, and I didn't have enough experience. And in the meantime, I set up my own consultancy company called SAY, Sustainability and Advocacy by Youth. And once again, it was about translating this vision I had for young people to be involved as decision makers into practice. So it was really important with the name, like I choose, it was say, like have a say, have an impact. I also wanted, sustainability and advocacy by youth and not for youth. I thought it was really important to insist on the by as well. So really creating an organization that could talk to anyone and that could create this bridge in between young people and research, young people,
yeah,
policymakers, young people, businesses, young people, civil society. And what I was doing is basically explaining and selling the vision of youth to these organizations and then creating projects. So, for instance, I've created a project with an organization in France, but also with partners in Japan, in Senegal, about the Olympic Games. So, creating a project supported by the EU Commission
yeah.
um,
So
that
that,
that is about to empower young people about the role of sport and the SDGs. I've been working with a sailing team on ocean acidification and how to educate kids and youth about that and how the ocean can play a role. Working on organizing events for intergovernmental organizations, and yeah, basically different topics. And I was really into sustainability. And then the COVID started, and I had the chance to meet with my co-founder Stephen, who's a bright and brilliant guy from the UK, who's been working for more than 30 years with head of ministers, administrators, governments, presidents, CEOs on positive impact, and we had a lot of discussions. We were dating each other about our projects, and then Stephen shared this idea with me about what about creating something that is regenerative and that goes beyond sustainability. And what I've discovered is that basically sustainability is good, and I already knew it was good. But while studying and while working, I was always thinking and questioning myself: what does it mean to be sustainable? Why is everyone able to be sustainable? There might be an issue on that. Why a fossil fuel company can have a sustainability policy? Why big Fortune 500 that are emitting a lot of CO2 can be sustainable. Does it work? What is wrong in this system? And basically, sustainability didn't make or doesn't make anything uncomfortable and doesn't, ask people, doesn't push people to do more. It's more about doing, I do my best, it's enough. But what is enough and what are the criteria to be good? So I was really into that and looking at how we could go beyond. And a regenerative economy is for me the solution today. Is about going beyond sustainability and acknowledging, the limited resources we have on our planet. As you know, we are on an Earth overshoot. We use 1.6, 1.75 planets a year, which is totally incredible. So the question is, how do we move from an overshoot world to a world that can be, regenerative and where everything can be regenerated and where we go into restoration, into shared value, and where everyone can benefit from the profit we make. And when I say everyone, it's people, but also the planet, making sure that everyone find safe space on Earth, basically.
Well, I'm a company and I'm producing, as you just mentioned, the world has been going this sustainability, circular economy. We shouldn't go with the linear economy, we should recycle. Talk about this regenerative concept. How do people fuse this in their business?
Yeah, so something really important to come back about the concept of regeneration. A regenerative business is basically inspired by living systems. So it means that instead of having something really, really anchored into society, it's something that moves, it's something that emerges. And, as our world is changing, we've seen it with COVID, why so many companies had to close, it's because they were not resilient enough. So this
Yes.
thing is, being regenerative is about creating an ecosystem that is a living ecosystem. So where everything is interconnected to every single point. So it's really about, adding the sum of different parts that is more important, and that represent the whole. So it's looking at the big picture, and looking at a systemic approach. So instead of looking at, you look at people that are living like in poverty, for instance, you look at people that are facing climate change, but what is the link in between? So, finding the link between climate change, migration, health, disease, whatever it is. So really looking, taking a step back, and this is really what I insist on usually is, how do we take a step back? How do we look at the big picture? And then we say, we fix the problems. But all problems are interconnected. And the world we live in is a world that is powered by old power models, where you have this top-down approach of saying, we have a problem, we're going to solve it that way. But solving a problem the way we've created it is not going to work. So we need to
Yeah.
really go back and look at, what has been the journey, what has been the reasons for this problem to exist, and how do we find a solution that emerges. So what we're doing with companies is really guiding them. So we have clear ambitions, clear targets. We've designed a compass that is called the Positive Compass. So all companies that are joining us are committed to the four values of positive. First one is planet. So understanding right relationship with nature, making sure that we don't take more than we give back to our planet. So, if you're a company and you produce, for instance, clothes, how do you make sure that you don't, take too much of natural resources? It can be cotton, it can be whatever it is, and that you give back more. This is something really, really important. So you can replant trees. There are so many ways to do it, and it's not always easy. Second one is looking at people. So, elevating human potential. So it's good to think about the planet, but if you think only about the planet, but you don't think about the people as human beings, as people that needs to be encouraged, to be empowered, it's not going to work. So within your company, you need to make sure that people have a say, people have some leadership, and can co-create together. Something really, really important. So really bringing, well-being concepts into the company. Then we look at partners. So understanding value for all, and really sharing the value. So, when you produce a product, for instance, that takes the example. We have a company in Ghana that is collecting plastic. This plastic is sold to a company that is based in Europe, in Portugal, for instance. And then this company in Portugal is selling this plastic and this waste to another company in the US. Why would the Ghanaian company get, a lower amount of the share than the Portuguese, than the American one? There is a problem on there. So how do we make sure that we have healthy supply chains that are transparent, where everyone can get access to the information? And last but not least, we look at places. So, honoring communities and making sure that when you work with a company, and you work on the local level, you definitely have an impact. You have an impact on the customers. You have an impact on the bioregion you work in, and then you impact. So it can be, it can be CO2 emission, but it can be also employment. Or do you make sure that you employ people in the local level, or do you make sure that it's employed? So it's really looking at that and getting this broad picture. And what we have at the center of the compass that we require from each company is to have a transformational purpose. So, it's not having a purpose like I'm writing 2, 3 sentences on a piece of paper and I put it on my website. It's about, what are you trying to solve with your business? What is the issue in this world that needs to be solved and that you can address with the services or the products you're creating? So really making sure that this purpose is anchored into society's values and that it can benefit the world, our society as a whole. And then this purpose needs to be transformational because once again it emerged. Our world is changing, our world is evolving. So this purpose cannot be, the same for 10 years. I mean, today it might be one, tomorrow it might be another because problems are evolving. And what do you aim to do with your business if you solve a problem? Is at some point to somehow disappear, like so you're doing something, for instance, let's say poverty. We want to, we want to eradicate poverty. Yeah, it's good. Then maybe in 10 years, 20 years, when it happens, maybe your business will not be needed anymore. So it's really about how do we make sure this purpose is transformational and that it goes through a journey and it evolves. Sometimes it might change a bit, but really making sure that it's in the company culture and the company values and that every single person that is engaged in this company is working towards the subject because it also makes people, much more motivated.
Yes.
When you wake up in the morning and you want to solve, a social issue or environmental issue, for sure you're going to wake up and you're going to have 10 times more energy than if you go to your work just to get a salary.
Exactly.
So how do you combine both, and it doesn't mean that you cannot make profit. You can still make profit while benefiting the environment, while benefiting the people, places, and partners. It's super, super crucial if we want to have a world that, that once again turn in the right side, in the right direction. We need to put that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because this too sort of considers the environmental part of this whole thing, considers the social part, human well-being, health, everything is sort of included in this concept. And I think that it's one thing that makes this thing very thoughtful and I think very, very applicable. So far, I think that you have had a lot of response, and I mean, obviously, from your website, there are a lot of partners and a lot of members who are getting involved in this. How has the response been so far?
Yeah, so we've started this initiative in COVID time. So it wasn't the just time, for companies. We were really targeting the private sector, looking at small and medium-sized companies, but also mid-size. So our strategy was to invite 100 founding members.
Okay.
So we've got 100 companies to support us.
Beautiful.
The response was, I would say, incredible. I mean, not all people that we reach out to, joined, but I would say that 80 to 90 did. And the ones didn't, they were still super hopeful about what we were doing, and it was more about bandwidth and, this tricky situation of COVID. So, the situation is complex. Some were, about to close their businesses, or they were, really rethinking their strategy, their business models. So it wasn't the best time for them to be part of this, but we were still in touch with them. But I would say that any single business that is a small business doesn't have enough resources to pay extremely expensive consultancy
Yeah,
fees,
yeah.
for instance. So what we want to do is really democratize the access to tools, to resources, share the knowledge, co-create together, and really build this collective intelligence principle of, anyone can have an issue, but there will always be a solution. And what we believe is that any issue, any challenge that a company is facing needs to be transformed into an opportunity because there will always be opportunities. So I like this expression of saying that we are navigating in an ocean of challenges.
Yes.
But there is always at the horizon, maybe a few kilometers away, maybe a few miles away, you know, there is always this opportunity. So even if you navigate in big waves and you have to struggle and you have to rethink, repurpose, and really readapt, there is always this bright, you know, sunshine.
Yes.
That is at the end of the path, and you know, this is what we are all about. Is how do we help company transition? And it can be about, you know, becoming a zero waste company. It can be about achieving net zero carbon emission by 2030. These are our two main goals at Positive, but we have so many others. But yeah, it's difficult. It's not an easy journey, and it's not everyone that is able to do it now. But what we want to do is to empower the many, to make sure that this message is clear, that it resonates with other companies, it inspires individuals, customers, partners, and then that all these companies together can make it and achieve it by a certain time, and always improve. Once again, it's not about, you know, in 2030 we're done and we stop our efforts. Let's continue to do more, and let's see, you know, our world is looking like in 2030. We don't know yet. I mean, who could have planned the COVID? You know, if another pandemic is happening, if climate change is hitting even more strongly than it is planned, you know, we don't know. So let's adapt day by day, but we have this big picture, this big vision, and we are at the service of people and planet with these companies that 100% committed and behind the vision.
And are you getting any support so far when it comes to, you know, the big organizations like the governments, the ministries, or the UN? Any good support coming in?
Yeah, so I mean, we are having a lot of conversations. I can mention two here, but I guess you know the Climate Group,
Yep.
which is an organization based in the UK, but that is organizing every week, every month, every year, sorry, the Climate Week. So we had a partnership with them for the launch of Positive on the 24th of September. We officially launched our initiative, and it was in partnership with them. So they've been a strong support for us. And then the second one that you certainly know as well is TED Talk.
Yeah.
So TED Talk have created the TED Countdown, which is all about climate action. And we've been invited to take part in their opening ceremony, and we are still in touch with them, looking at opportunities to partner. So yeah, these were the two major ones. And as you can imagine, we are having a lot of conversations at the moment, and some include also some campaigning in partnership, or in, you know, in with a vision to achieve something big by the COP26 that will take place in November 2021 in Glasgow. So you know, we're looking at this event as it's going to be a big gathering of world leaders to make sure that we can participate, we can spread our message, and we can get big supporters by them.
So that's it for today's episode. In part 2, we're going to dig deeper into how to join the positive base camp and the lessons that COVID has taught us, and the details of how regenerative economy can help us to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Tune in this and every Sunday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We will also love to hear from you. Contact us on our social media platforms or visit our website www.ecoametsolutions.com, and we'll be glad to have a chat with you. See you on the next episode. Until then, live green.